What is up, everybody? Sysadmin Sean here, and today we are going to be doing something a little bit home labby, but something I needed to do to my hardware to make sure that I am doing, kind of a JBOD situation as opposed to what I have been doing, which is fake RAID. So we are flashing our RAID card into IT mode so that we can do hot swappable drives inside Proxmox and other virtualization systems so we can really take advantage of things like ceph. So stay tuned. All right, so let me get this going, and perfect. It did exactly what I want to do. So this is the website, Fodisha Talks. They have the full guide on how to flash the following type RAID cards if you have them. I happen to have the H710P Mini. So this goes through all the steps you need to follow, everything you need to do, the downloads you need to do, all of that. Super simple, amazing, great guide, and that's what we're going to be following today. So I just want to show that off. It'll be in the description down below. So anyway, without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing you got to do, according to the guide, is you need to go into the BIOS of your system and disable virtualization and then IoT and one other thing. So we did that. Let me go over there and read that off. So virtualization technology, integrated devices, SRIOV global engine, and IOAT DMA engine. And then you also need to make sure you set your boot mode to BIOS. So once you've done that, you need to get into your physical hardware. First, disconnect all your drives. I won't show that up here. Remove the battery, and then you need to download a zip from them. The zip contains 2 ISOs. I used Ventoy so that I could put them both on the same USB key and just move off them as I want to. So once you get that loaded up on Ventoy, and again, follow the notes in here. If you're using Ventoy, make sure to boot the free DOS image in memdisk mode, right? You will boot into the FreeDOS ISO first. That will give you info about your RAID card. And then once you figure out which RAID card you need, you have to go back to the website, find your card in the list, then run the command to wipe the flash that's on the card. That will erase it. And then as long as you get no errors, you're going to boot into Linux. Once you get into Linux, you will be greeted with some wonderful old school graphics. And you will log in and become the root user. And then once you're in as the root user, you are going to run another command, again, dedicated based off your RAID card, and let that finish. Once that finishes, you're going to reboot the system again. It is going to kernel panic, and then it's going to force reboot again. This is apparently something going on with like the old PERC card holding some data is what they believe it is. But either way, you should be fine. Once it's rebooted that second time, you're going to go back into the Linux ISO. You are going to set the SAS connection string, which is what you should have wrote down when you typed in info the first time. Then once all that is set, you are done. You go back into your BIOS, you turn on virtualization, and the other 2 options, you can switch back over to Wi-Fi mode. Oh, I forgot one thing. You are not completely done. If you want to make the drives bootable, there is a final command you need to flash on there so that you can boot off of these drives in the JBOD if you need to. Like if you're not using USB keys or SD cards to boot, or if you're, have a different set of hard drives attached somewhere else. If they're attached to this main controller after you flash it, you have to run this other command for the ability for them to boot, and it only takes a couple minutes. Then once you're done with that, you go back into the BIOS, turn your features on, and then you're ready to go. When you reboot from now on, it's not going to show up the same way as the PERC card did before. It's going to show MPT2 BIOS, and then it'll list your drives. If your drives are listed, they're looking great. And then you can go ahead and install something. I decided to install Proxmox and got all that done, installed it to one hard drive. Now this is where on my previous configs, I would go into the RAID card and configure each drive as a virtual disk and then RAID them that way. But you don't want to do that in this scenario. You don't really want to do that. That's bad for the data. I've heard stories that apparently sometimes those RAID cards die, which destroys your ceph cluster or whatever, combined drive system you're wanting to use inside of the system as opposed to hardware RAID. So you don't want to do that. So I installed Proxmox normally, and then once it's up, we'll see here that you can see all of my regular drives that were in the machine when it started. And then, so I went downstairs again and I plugged in a new drive. And sure enough, if we goof around in the menus for a few seconds, we should see that it just auto added the drive I just plugged in, which is super cool. It's super duper handy. But anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be doing that to all of my 720s, and you can even revert this if you don't like it. If you need the RAID card back, it's not a big deal to do basically the same process again to change the flash back. They have instructions for all that. Again, I'll leave the link in the description below. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one.